Welcome back. Today we're going to make some lithium-ion packs. I need a 2-cell and a 3-cell, but the technique applies to any number of cells. So the first thing you need to find, the first thing you need to determine is how many cells you need. So here is a typical 2-cell. These is just standard lithium-ion 18650. Works with 2700 or 2700 cells or 21700 cells, or even the smaller 18500s, whatever it is you want to use. And this is not to believe 5000 milliamp hour. These are probably 12 or 1500 milliamp hour cells. Ultrafire, not like the greatest brand in the world, but this is just for a remote control car for my daughter. And the way we're gonna set it up is just run these two like this and connect positive and negative here, and that'll be plenty. Well, in order to charge this, you need a balance plug. And the way balance charging works is you need one wire to connect to your positive terminal, no matter how many cells you have, and one wire to connect to your negative terminal. And then you need another wire for every coupling in between. So what that gives you, so it's what you end up with is the number of cells plus 1. So for a 2-cell, you need 3 wires. You need one to connect to the positive terminal, and then the one at the end to connect to the negative, and then the one in the middle is going to connect exactly to the middle. And it doesn't matter how these end up being oriented or anything else. When we have 3 involved, and I'm going to build a 3-cell. Wow, I really pack these. They pack them in a box, and then each individual cell in a box. Interesting. So if we just imagine for a moment that we have 3 cells or 4 cells, we would have them laid out pretty much like this, and we would have our and the wire colors, you'll find rainbow colors and all sorts of other stuff on Amazon. The wire color doesn't matter on a balance plug. What you'll see is that the wire all the way on the end, and the way I kind of look at it is this is the top side, and this wire is your positives, the one all the way. So if you imagine that, the one with the guiding pins on it is the top, the one all the way on the left is going to be your positive. So we'll connect the positive there, and then the one at the end goes to the one at the end here, and then one in between each one of these. And that lets the charger be able to complete a circuit of any one of these individual cells. So if it wants to, let's say it needs to charge this cell right here. All the others are charged up 100%. This one's at 95 for whatever reason, right? It can complete a circuit between these 2 pins and charge just that one cell to 100%. Or let's say the middle one was at 80% and everything else was at 100%. It could use just the middle 2 pins on this connector and charge just that one battery. So that's why it's a balance and how it all works. So you need N plus 1 is a number of cells, plus 1 is the number of connectors you need on your balance charger. And you can buy these on Amazon, already made up. You can make them yourself. If you make them yourself, I highly recommend this. This is from iWis. This is the iWis 3220M. Very useful tool. It can be very tricky to make these if you're not used to it. But basically, you just kind of clamp them in the, clamp the wire in the connector, and then squeeze the connector between this nice tool, and then you just feed the wire into the plastic housing there, and that does it. It took me probably a good 20 minutes to work out the technique, because I haven't done it for a while. It took me about 20 minutes to work out the technique, and then it took me another minute or 2 to put them all together. So it's not a fast process, and it's a whole lot cheaper to buy them already pre-made, stamped at some factory. I mean, it's like $7 for 10 or 20 of these things, depending on what size you need. But in this case, I needed kind of an off size. 3S and 2S aren't all that popular. 6S and 4S are way more popular, and you'll find them all over the place. So anyway, enough talking. I think you understand the basic principles at this point. What I'm going to do, and what I like to do, is every time I build a quad with big, good wire, and they give me way too much of it, like this is 14-AUG wire, I go ahead and keep it. There's really no reason not to. And it'd be a shame to throw away. I mean, this is a foot of wire. I mean, right? It's like it's literally a foot of wire. And you know, normally I'd throw it away, but you know, for the most part, it is good wire. And so I kept them. And this is going to be more than enough wire for to do this entire thing. You can actually even use thinner gauge wire here. Granted, it won't be black, or it won't be red and black, but you know what? I'm not too worried about it. I'll solder it up. It's just for a kid's toy. This is 18. There's scraps all in here. More than enough for a low amp draw situation like this. And this is more than enough wire for this. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to run, let me just double check something. That is the key. So one of these is going to have a red T connector, like this guy, and the other one is going to have a standard XT60 on it. So the first thing we should probably do is get some solder on each side of these batteries. Now there's oxide, a layer of oxide on each end of this, and the easiest way to solder to a battery is to get rid of that oxide layer. Now I have over here, this is phosphoric acid. I'm not going to use this today because I'm not doing like a bunch of them, so it doesn't really make sense to bust out, you know, acid for you know, just a couple of things. But what does work really well is just regular old sandpaper. This is 600 grit, and I think this is probably this feels like 250 or something like that. 210, 120. So 120 grit sandpaper will generally get through that oxide layer without any issue at all, and leave you with a surface that'll take that solder without trouble. So just give it a good scrubbing down and wipe it off with your finger. And that's another thing you don't have to worry about, because you're not using acid. You don't have to worry about keeping water and other things and safety glasses and all that other good stuff. Just wipe it down, and let's go ahead. You want the soldering iron, I've got it set at 450C, or about 8, I'm going to call it 850. So it's set pretty high. If yours doesn't go that high, you know, just keep in mind that, you know, it can do damage to cells the longer you leave your it on there, the more damage you can do to a cell. But again, I'm using really cheap batteries. All 18650s are pretty cheap nowadays, so it's not like it's a ton of money, but technique is pretty much the same. You get down on the tip, you start feeding the wire in, and then you just kind of swirl it, and that's going to be a pretty good top right there. And then we'll do the same thing to the bottom, and probably should have set up, we'll just swirl it around a little bit. That'll be plenty. You don't need a whole lot on these guys. A little bit will do you. Again, get on top. Yep. That's it. That'll be plenty. And that little bit of heat shouldn't have done any damage. Now you can turn it down to about 425, 800 degrees. That'll be good for the rest of the work that you need to do to it. But you just want to tin the tops of these first at a high temp to make sure that you get down through that oxide layer, get down to some metal, and get some solder on it before you do anything else. And then now that we've got solder on it, it's going to be a whole lot easier to stick our wires to it. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and tape these two together, and this is, just line them up, and we're going to run a wire from one side to the other, and then we'll get our connector attached, and then be moving on along to the balance lead. Oh, come on, you. Trickiest part in all this is lining up your cells. Alright, that's good enough for now. Don't go whole hog on it until you're happy with everything in place, because you're going to have wires going everywhere. So just wait, get them set up like this, and then at the end is when you really want to lock it down, wrap it up, do whatever you want. I have some Kapton tape here. Kapton tape, very useful, much better to use Kapton tape over top of terminals and other things rather than this vinyl tape. The vinyl tape holds them together just fine, but I really do prefer the Kapton tape. That's what all the other manufacturers tend to use, is Kapton tape. And then we'll actually wrap them in some plastic heat shrink too. So let's go ahead and get our I got our connector. I just need some shrink tube. Just changed all my drawers around because I was getting to the point where I just had so much stuff everywhere and every which way. Just needed to be done. Let's see, one of these is positive and the other is negative. And we'll use, about that much. Yeah, that should be, let's go just a little long on that. There we go. There's one side. There's the other. Honestly, I think we'll keep it a little long, and maybe we can just wrap it under like that. I like that. There's one and two. Yeah, anything you can do to give yourself strain relief on these guys is always a good idea. And on the pigtails, I cut 7 inches. That's what I prefer, about a 7-inch pigtail. 6 inches is fine too, but on an 18650 or even a little larger cell, I like having, you know, enough space to work with, and a little bit hanging out. Just I feel like it you know, having a little bit extra, like 2 inches, 2.5 inches on the end to flop around, it just seems like it works better to me. Plus you got tape, and you'll tape it all to one side, and you know. Anyway, so this is just soldering flux. This is it just helps spread the solder onto the wire a little bit, and I'll tin up, or I'll tin all these wires, and then that'll give us a good working set of wires to go with. And we don't need this long one, we need this short one. The one with only 3 connectors, because we only have 2 cells, so N plus 1 is 3 in this case. And the black one on here is the positive, and then the third one, so we've got positive and then the middle cell, just like that. So let's go ahead and turn these guys. Hopefully you can see this, it's not too out of focus. Let's take the hair out. Clean the tip. That ought to do that side. This side is pretty much the exact same. Oh, come on. I think that'll do it. All right. And each one of the connectors. Now this wire gauge I think is 20, what does that say? God, I believe it says 26, which is more than enough, because typically balance charging is only done at like 0.1 or 0.2 amps, which is going to be like super low. You know, it's really not designed to charge up an entire battery. It's the final stage of a charging process that in theory should be using the larger connector to do all the work. So which one of these sides looks better for holding this? I think this side is probably the best side. And then this side will do the smaller connector. And what are my good tweezers? Oh, they're my good tweezers. Yeah, with 4 cells it stands up on its own. So just keep that in mind. We're going to do, there's that one. Yes, it's hot. Okay. And there's that one. All right. So we got those two done. And you can kind of twist them a little bit and get them to move about, and just kind of force it down into place however you want. And then now that that side is done, we'll go ahead and attach before we do that, we should really connect up our connector. That way we don't accidentally touch these two wires together at any point. Right. Oh, come on. Positive side, and this one here is the negative side. And then go ahead and attach this guy. This. Flip it over, attach this guy, that should be our connector done. Alright, and now I'm going to use the hot air gun to shrink the heat tube. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. I think that turned out all right. Great. Now, the other side of this guy. So, I'm going to make sure that we run the positive terminal, and the positive one is the larger one on this guy. It's actually labeled plus on the inside here. There's a little plus, and there's a minus on the other end. So, just pay attention to that. This one right here, this wire right here is the positive wire. It needs to go to the positive terminal here. And that's it. The negative one is next. Make sure we got the negative one. Yep, we do. We'll just heat this guy up. Done. Alright, so there is our battery. We've got it long wire so that we have plenty of slack. Okay, and we've got strain relief so we can attach it to this side and wrap everything up and have plenty of, so that we're not yanking our wires out if it gets ejected. And now to do this guy. So next one to do is going to be the black wire. Now this one is the positive line, so we need to connect it to the positive terminal, and we don't have to get, you know, be superheroes about this or anything. It just needs to touch that and melt into it a little bit. It doesn't need to be on there like super awesome or anything. And then this one is the same way. So this is the third conductor, right? The middle one we haven't connected yet. And then here is redo that one. Oh, come on. There we go. That should do it. Alright. Finally, the last conductor. Now, it doesn't actually matter which end you connect this to, because this conductor runs between them. So whichever one looks like the better candidate is acceptable. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use this positive terminal right here, because it'll complete the circuit no matter what side we connect to. Yep, looks good. Alright, looking pretty sharp here. I think that's going to do it, just like that. So now I'll tape this up, put another layer of tape on this guy. Okay. Good. Now we can double check everything, make sure that we've got exactly what we expect to see here. Alright, so we want to come down here. I want to set it to the 20 volt DC, and if we connect to the negative pad here and the positive, we should see about 7.8 volts, which is 8 volts give or take. These haven't been charged up yet, so they should be at their standard 3.7 or 3.8 volts, whatever it happens to be. And then if we want, we can measure each individual cell, and the way we do that is by touching the positive to the black one, and then the middle one should read 3.7 or 3. This one says 3.9, and then the one at the very end should read 7.9, and then if we measure this one to this one, we should get about 3.9 as well. So that looks correct. It looks like a good pack. So let's see if I can find some shrink wrap that will work. No, I think this is too small. think, no. I have like gobs of shrink wrap. It's going to be too small. I fit in there. Nope. I think this stuff will do. I hope, anyway. That'd be embarrassing, not having any shrink tube that would work. Yeah, I think that'll work. So the next step, before we do anything else, is to make sure that we wrap the ends and everything in Kapton tape so that we don't have any it doesn't end up touching something after we shrink tube it. So that's all we're doing here, is using the Kapton tape to cover these ends. It doesn't need to be pretty as long as it works. That should be good enough. Yep. Feed it on down in there, like so. And now we'll go back to the heat gun. I'll hold it by the tip and heat it up. Get all this stuff out of the way. And that should do it. So afterwards you can take an X-Acto and kind of trim up anything you don't like here, or you can double shrink it. You can do whatever you want, and that pack is good to go. So there it is. That's how you make a basic 2S pack, 3S pack. Very much the same. Exact same principle applies. You just basically put together a pack with a balance lead and let your charger do the rest, and have fun. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Hope this hasn't gone on too long, and hopefully you learned something from this. Thanks for watching.